So I'm guessing that many of you are here because, and I know that it's so tiny on the bottom, it says, I haven't had a free moment for so long, I forget what fun is, or what I do for fun. I'm guessing that many of you are here because you have so much to do. Am I, yeah? Okay. And I'm also guessing that you're not hanging out here because you had nothing better to do on a Friday morning, especially because Monday and Tuesday were kind of crazy. So what I want to do is kind of get a feel for what are some of your goals for coming. Some of you emailed those to me last night. Thank you very much. I know that I was slow on getting that email out, so thank you for those of you who responded. But what are some of the things that you're hoping to get from today? Because I can tell you whether or not it's going to happen. You decide to leave or stay. So you think I'm lying, but those of you who know me know I'm not. So what are some of the things you're hoping to get from today? Oh, background. I'm a high school math teacher. If you make eye contact with me, you're probably going to get called on. So I'm just warning you now, hide under the table if you don't want, because you're all fair game. And again, I'm not joking. So what are you hoping to get from today? I know some of you said I set my calendar, and then I don't know why, by the end of the day I didn't do anything that I set my schedule for. Is that, okay, so, and we'll pretend I spell correctly, math teacher, and pretend it's very legible, math teacher. All right, so we have schedule. What else are some of the things?
Managing interruptions.
Interruptions, okay.
Teach it to her. Good one. Oh, yeah, sure you will.
What else?
We're taking advantage of time when I'm in carpool line or other things like that.
Ah, small.
There's probably something I can do, but I don't know what it is and I don't do it.
There is. Small time, okay.
Time management when you're in a home business and you're challenged with, do I do the laundry or do I do what my office work is? You know.
And if you're working a home business and your kids have no school because it's too
Oh
cold.
my God.
I know, because you planned, right?
I was so
You
good.
were like, oh yeah, Monday, we're going back to the schedule, right?
Yeah.
My husband's a teacher. I was like, well, I'm sorry, but I have this presentation on Friday, and as far as I'm concerned, you are not here. And then Tuesday, I was like, I have this presentation on Friday, so I don't care that if you walk outside, your face is going to fall off. You can get out of my house. I know those darn people, interruptions. What else?
Procrastination.
Never.
What else?
Distractions.
Yes, I know, because it's the stuff that goes on in your mind that
Or
can get you, yeah.
stuff on your desk.
I
Oh,
find
if I
that
just do
larger
this one thing-
projects, just getting started is so hard.
Okay, so large projects and those self-distractions. Tomorrow. The problem is tomorrow becomes today.
See you later tomorrow.
Seasonal.
Linda.
I have a problem with small projects.
Okay, small projects.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I think seasonal changes too.
Sounds like everything.
I was like, who really messed up? So just so you know, I'm here with you all for 3 hours. Just the 3. It gives me a place to start, thank you. There's a chance we won't get to all of those. But know that I will not leave you hanging at the end. I do have additional resources that I'll make available for you. So if you're like, oh my God, I really wanted to know how to stop procrastinating. And I was like, yeah, sorry, it's 11:30, see y'all later. I will give you a place to go from there. So what we're going to do today, what my goal is we're going to walk through what I call my 3 stages of awe, A.W.E. Awareness, work, and evaluation. Like we were saying earlier, if you can do it in 5 steps instead of 10, obviously you're going to be saving some time. But how do you know that you can do it in 5? So that's where that awareness piece comes in. Where are you? What's important? Now, how do we get from where we are and what's important to what we want to do and where we want to be? I always joke, people will say, oh, I can save you 2 hours a day. Great, but if you don't know what you want to do with those 2 hours, it doesn't really matter. So that's the awareness page. Where are we? The work part is, what's that bridge? How are we going to get there? Things like how do we overcome procrastination, distractions, calendar techniques. all those ways to get us from where we want to be, from where we are to where we want to be. Then evaluation, the genius is in the debrief. When you finish a project, schedule that time to come back and say, what worked, what didn't. But we're so focused on the next one that we think, oh, I'll think about that later. And how do you do that? Really, I'm not talking so much today about as time management, though that's the buzzword, that's what we use, but you can't manage time. We all have the same 168 hours in a week, and you only manage how you work with your time. Really what we're talking about is productivity, doing the right thing at the right time, as efficiently and effectively as possible. So let's talk about some ground rules from today. I'm easily distracted. I'm sure that shocks most of you in the room. So one of the techniques I want to get you, this works with distractions, is what's called a parking lot. As I'm talking, things will be popping into your head. So right on the back of anything, those random thoughts that pop into your head. So I could say, I don't know, random thought in your head, you're like, oh, that's right, I've got to remember to take out the roast when I get home to thought for tomorrow. Jot it down, because instead what you're going to be doing is you're going to be thinking, oh, I can't forget to take out that roast, I can't forget to take out that roast. Just write it down. You also, I may say something and you'll think, oh man, that kind of sounds like, I'll say something about procrastination, you're like, oh, but I really have a hard time with perfectionism. Park that as something you want to ask me later. Because if you ask me now, I'll go down that road. And it was hard enough getting all the information in my head into 3 hours. Imagine what will happen if I go down all these tangents. So just go ahead and park it. If you have a question about something like you're like, I have no idea what she just said, please raise your hand and ask me, because probably all of you don't know what I said, because I talk fast. So that's your parking lot. So when we talk about managing distractions, this is a great thing to use when you're on the internet. And you know how you want to open one browser, and then you want to open another one, and then the next thing you know, you're like 30 browsers away from where you started? Write that stuff down on a list. If you're working on a project, and all of a sudden when your creative juices are flowing, like they start flowing in all sorts of areas, not just the project you're working on. Write those down so that you can stay focused on just that one task that you started on. Does that make sense? Or is that just me? Am I the only one whose brain goes 50 directions? Good. So that's one of your distractions ideas. So when you say, like, I'm distracted by things on my desk, that's right, Bonnie, you said that. Was it you, Bonnie, that said you're distracted by things on your desk? Then go ahead and write down what it is that pops into your head, and then just stay focused on what it is you're doing. For those of you who struggle to stay focused, I like a timer, because I know that I can do anything for 15 minutes. So I'll set the timer and I'll just make myself work for that long, and then I decide if I want to do something else. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to play a game. It's so much fun. So here are the rules to your game. Do not cheat. Do not start before I tell you. The prize isn't doing it well. There is no actual prize. This is prize beating your neighbor. What we're going to do first is you're going to write out, join the A challenge. Sorry, I'm standing there where you can't see. And you're also going to write out the numbers 1 through 19. However, you're not writing the words across and then the numbers across. You're going to write J, and then 1, O, and then 2, I, and then 3, all the way until you finish, join the A challenge, and the numbers 1 through 19. Yes, there are 19 letters. They will all match up. Raise your hand if you need those instructions repeated again, because I totally lost you. Okay. Eventually, when your paper's done, across the top it'll say join the A challenge. It will, underneath of that, it will have the numbers 1 through 19, but you're writing them letter, number, letter, number. Make sense? If you've already started, you need to cross that out, because we have not started yet, because I did not say go. Oh, now this is the biggest computers I've ever seen. Okay. So what I'm going to do is every 5 seconds, I will say what time it is. When you finish, letter, number, I want you to jot down the time that you're closest to. So if I say 25 and then I say 30 or somewhere in the middle, throw out 27. Okay? Anyone need the instructions repeated again? Hold now. Wow, competitive group. Ready and go. Letter, number. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and look up when you're done. We'll always be counting seconds forever. 35, 40, 45. Okay. You're going to do this again, but this time you're going to actually be able to write all the letters at once, all the numbers at once. Do not start until I tell you. Go. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Everybody done? How many of you had the same, close to the same numbers the first time and the second? How many of you had about double the first time versus the second? Okay. How many of you think you're good multitaskers? How many of you multitask? Okay, do you see where I'm going with this? What happens when you have to think from letter to number? Your brain is switching tasks. Multitasking really isn't doing two tasks at the same time. It's really switch tasking or background tasking, meaning you guys just did switch tasking. Thought about the letter, thought about the number. Thought about the letter, thought about the number. That's switch tasking. And for most of you in this room, it took twice as long. And possibly a mistake. Possibly. Background tasking is when you're watching TV and doing something else. Half your attention's on the TV and you're also doing something else. Or you're listening to like a teleseminar and you're folding the laundry and you're kind of listening. You're like, I know in this teleseminar they're going to talk about marketing, but right now they're just doing the introductions and then they're going to talk about their next program and you're kind of half listening. And then you're like, oh, they're into the marketing part, now I'm going to listen. That's background tasking. I am not telling you to multitask or not to multitask. I'm saying that there's 1% of the population whose numbers actually are close on the first exercise and the second. I've met her. Her name is Kim Lenninger. She's the executive director out in Chardon for United Way, I believe. I was astounded because I'm so used to it never happening. When it did, I was like, oh, it's true. There is one person in the world. And she lives in Chardon. So the reason for this, as I'm laying the ground rules for today, is the most exciting thing that's going to happen to you all day. So if we could keep our phones on silent. Now, there are reasons why you may need to take a phone call. Bonnie has 2 reasons today to take a phone call. You have someone serving overseas and you don't know when they can call, by all means. I'm not the most exciting thing that's going to happen to you today, but that is. Sick relative, kids at home, though hopefully they're all back in school today. Like those types of things, great. But when you have that urge to check your email and listen to me, one of those 2 things isn't going to do the most important thing that's going to happen to you today. So you want to make sure you're doing that. I will give you time to check those. And just know, if you have an important call coming in that you know you have to take, I'm not going to be like all crazy mean at you. But if it's just, in general, your aunt telling you that it's snowing and you can't drive here, like I did this morning, just go ahead and let that one go to voicemail. Okay. Why is time management so hard? Well, one part of it is because it's so hard to figure out what it is that we want to do. Because we do the same stuff. Look at your calendar. You're like, well, it's Monday, it must be Jenga day, I don't know. But you have those things scheduled into your calendar and you just keep doing them over and over and over again. And you really have a hard time to step back, taking the time to think, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? The second thing is you finally get into your routine and the darn school closes for 2 days because it's so cold out, your face will fall off. So now all of a sudden, you're like, well, I can't do what I need to do because all this other stuff has happened. And then slowly but surely, you're so far away from where you started, You forgot what a good productive day looked like because things keep happening. Sometimes it's something big, birth of a child, you become the caregiver for a family member. Sometimes it's those little things that happen. You have a garage sale. You have a big presentation that takes up all that time, and you keep putting all that other stuff off. So we want to talk about how do we get back to that? How do you get back to a daily schedule or in fact a big schedule? So those are the two pieces we're really going to be working on today. It's not easy. I promise it's not. If it were easy, you guys wouldn't be here today. So trust me, I will give you lots of resources to help you along the way. As Megan said, time strategy visionary. I'm not a productivity expert. I'm not a time management guru. I like to look at the big picture. Not that these people don't, but my focus is more, let's look at the big, let's look at your vision. What's your big picture? Where do you want to be? Then let's create the structure and strategies on how to get there. We want to implement a plan. So today's a start. I will not magically fix your problems in the next 2 hours and 40 minutes, though I would wish that I could. First thing we're going to do today is we're going to start to build awareness. So up until when we take a break, that's my goal. I mean, I always need to know where the train's going, and I didn't give you my PowerPoint ahead of time, so you have no idea when I'm getting close to the end. So let me tell you where this train's going. We're going to start to build awareness to start with. Then we're going to move into actual solutions and things that you can walk away and implement then. How many of you, when's the last time, I know it's early January, so this could have happened, I know it happened for Sam. How many of you sat down and really defined your goals? Okay, we may move past this pretty quickly at the beginning. I want to make sure that you've thought of a lot of different areas before we pick the one goal that we're going to create an action plan around. So look at your first handout that has this picture on it. Please, sorry. And like I told you, high school math teacher, so I'll just tell y'all what to do. Take a moment right now and fill in that top one. If I could do anything, what would you do? If you could do anything in the world, what would you do? Make sure you're thinking big, huge. Don't limit yourself. You could do anything. What would you do? Second question. The most important thing in your life is what? And you're allowed to have more than one most important thing. You have 5 most important things, I'm good with that. How do you feel in the morning? And if it depends on the day of the week, put that down too. When do you feel most energized or excited or any positive thing you want to choose? Write that down next. Now the flip side to that, when do you feel the most discouraged, depressed, or overwhelmed? And then finally, when you think about your business, how do you feel? When you think about your family, how do you feel? Your health. Pick any of those categories. Go ahead and look at your next page in your packet. Because what you've started to do is to create that vision of how you want your life to look. The things that excite you, that energize you, the things that you want to do. Now let's see how you're really spending your time. What I'd like you to do is jot down on this paper that has the guy on the top says doing something unimportant well still doesn't make it important. And I want you to write down how you spent your time yesterday and the day before. So what did you do Wednesday and Thursday? Feel free to pull out your calendar if you don't remember. What are some of the activities you spent your time on? If for some reason Wednesday or Thursday wasn't like a normal day, like you spent all day at the doctor's or something, feel free to pick a day earlier in the week. I know this exercise is not to make you feel overwhelmed or depressed about all the things that you did or did not do. So yes, I may tell you no wonder why you're tired. You guys still right? I want you to look over your list that you've just written, and I want you to put a smiley face on every activity that matches up to the if I could do anything. So on the first page you wrote if I could do anything, and I want you to go ahead and put a smiley face next to everything that correlates with that. Anyone need those instructions repeated?
Was that, I
anything supposed to be work related?
It's anything.
Don't nothing.
Anything. It's cruising in the Bahamas, it's feeding the hungry, it's whatever it may be. Put a number 1 next to whatever activities on there match up with, these are the things that are the most important in my life. The second question that you filled out on another sheet. Put a number 1 next to those. What are you learning about yourself right now? I'm gonna ask you that question or variation of it about 5 times a day. So get used to answering. What do you know about what you say is important, if you could do anything, all those things that is your building awareness, what do you know about that in relationship to your schedule? How many of you had smiley faces? Good, good. Would anyone like to share?
I said, my thing I wanted to do was fly to Paris for dinner, and my husband and I did go out to dinner last night, it just was at Poncho and Locals.
But, help us. And we could take that a step further. What else would another smiley face next to an action look like with your dinner in Paris? Sorry, I know I just put you on the spot.
Researching a restaurant to go to.
There we go. There we go. There would be that's a great correlation. There would be another direct correlation on making that happen. Who else has smiley faces that would like to share? Look at that I add on the would like to share and all hands go back down. Yes, Liz.
As part of my action plan, I have a really big new client, and on Wednesday, they've asked for certain dates, and on Wednesday, I was able to move 2 established clients to free up the dates that my new client wanted, and it didn't, and the old clients were happy to do it.
We're fine. We're right. So it's
In
not
fact,
like you
one of them
traded
even
one for another.
preferred it.
Oh, good. There's an unintended consequence of it's good. Let's talk about the number 1s. How many of you had number 1s on your list? Things that matched up with things that were most important. Normally when I do this during the week, like towards the end of the week, very few people have number 1s because usually family is on the top of that priority list. So when I do this presentation, this part of the presentation on Monday, hands are up all over the place because a lot of people work a traditional work week and they spend family time on Sunday. On Fridays and Thursdays, usually not as much. Who would like to share something that matched up with their number 1?
Last night, my husband and son and I went to a wrestling match because he used to wrestle and he's leaving for college on Sunday, so we had that little time, yeah.
Awesome. Who else would like to share?
Well, even though I was doing all these things for my business, I took lunch to my sick daughter and wrote a testimonial for a friend, so.
There you go. So, as you're looking at, as you're recreating your day yesterday and today, are you happy with your balance of activities? Start to fill this out in all your categories. Questions?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is for a week, not a day.
This is for a week. So if you need to think day and then multiply by 7, that's fine, but this is for your week. So they're figuring on this, they're figuring you have an hour of like lost time, just in general a day. And if you need additional help for categories, there's some. Liz had a really good question in case this applies to anybody else. Would you consider driving from point A to point B lost time? No, I consider it going in with whatever activity you're driving to. So if you're driving to do something with family, you could put it there. You could also create your own category for travel. On this sheet, they recommend that you put in commute time to work as work, but you can pull that out if it's easier for you to create your boundaries. So for those who are talking about home-based businesses and when you do the laundry, think of those household chores as their own separate category. Not that everyone can. Think of household chores as a separate category. But for those of you who work outside of the house, it's usually a better and easier line. Those of you who have home-based businesses, separate those out from work time. As you finish, add up your hours, please. 168 hours in a week. So if you're, so that part about tracking your time and actually knowing when I still know you smiling at me, like, are there really? Now, the reason I had you over, how many of you are over 168?
I put asterisks on the categories that are done with multitasking, like eating my meals.
Ah, okay, there we go. I'm sorry, I missed, how many of you are over 168? Okay. Again, if we could figure out how to patent that. How many of you are under 168? Did anyone hit it right on? Okay. So there's a point to this. One, estimating obviously not the best route of figuring out how we're spending our time, but it gives you a place to start now. Obviously, you don't have more than 168 hours in your day. So some of those places could be multitasking, in which case we have to figure out what part belongs in each activity. And it really isn't so much trying to get your sheet to 168. Now, if you have a personality like mine, you're gonna sit here the rest of the workshop and try to erase things and make it even out. Is to have an awareness. Because notice that last column says future. How many hours do you want to spend in those categories? That's where we want to start to narrow it down. It goes back to the smiley faces. How many smiley faces did you have on your sheet? How many hours do you want to spend? So go ahead and jot down the number of hours that you want to spend in each category as a starting point for you once you leave here. It will be helpful when you do your future if you make it equal 168. Anyone more time helpful? Okay. So, running around in your head right now are probably a lot of ideas. Am I accurate? Okay. Raise your hand if, yeah. I see that. All right, let me back up. Promise we're taking a break shortly. I'm getting a glazed look. There's a slide that comes in a little later. The glazed look just happened sooner than I anticipated. Overwhelm is normal. Because look what we just did. When's the last time you sat down and thought about all these types of questions? All right, overwhelm is normal. What happens, it's a neurobiological thing. And do I have any scientists in here? Okay, then if I miss the words up a little bit, we're so good. For those of you who know me that like 80% of the stuff I say is actually true, and then like 20% I just kind of make up on the fly. This is true. So, what do you think? Neurobiological means that your brain normally works in its prefrontal cortex. That's the logic processing part. When you get overwhelmed, as about 2/3 of you are right now, your brain starts to go back to the flight or fight, the limbic part of your brain. So either your brain starts spinning like crazy, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to focus on next. That's the whole flight. Or it shuts down. I'm so overwhelmed right now, I have so much to do, I'm gonna go take a nap. That's your brain's way of protecting itself. So I've just thrown a lot of stuff at you, of which most of you sat there and took it all in. And you kept thinking, wow, if I could do anything, I would go to Paris and have dinner. For others, it's, I don't know, yesterday as I was still changing my slides, the order of my slides around, it was chocolate. You have to pick what works best for you, and then know that, recognize it, and know that, and then go there. So what I'm going to try now is to help you build some structure, because you have a lot of ideas flying around in your head. Let's try to get some of them down on paper. Your next sheet, I only want you to look where it says topic. Notice how I got rid of all the other stuff? Only look at the topic. If it helps you to cover up the other sides with a piece of paper, do that. This is to work on in parts, so only look at the part where it has topic. And what I want you to do is start to write down the things that are in your head that you want, let me back up, the things that are in your head. So, it could be any of this stuff, you're thinking, oh man, I really do want to go to Paris. Or wow, reading is really important to me. Those types of multi-step activities or projects, I want you to start to write those down. So take those from that first awareness sheet that you started to work on. No judgment, not a lot of thought, we're just compiling all those thoughts that are in your head and on 3 pieces of paper into 1 piece of paper. So, for example, this sheet could have business goals. I want to increase my corporate clients by 2, I totally made it up, but it's close, I'm close, right? Your corporate book by 2?
Commercial lines.
Commercial lines. See, I was close.
3.
3. Okay, so see what, 80% true, 20% made up. I knew part of Sam's goal. And maybe I want to redesign my website. You want to put those types of things down. Personal goals, business goals. And maybe I want to exercise more. For right now, more will be okay. It's not very specific, but you can go ahead and put more down at the moment. But I want you to put down everything that's popping into your head. This is called a brain dump. It's also a way when you're overwhelmed, get it all out of your head, get it on paper somewhere where you can see it. Sometimes it makes you more overwhelmed, sometimes it makes it less, but just get it all down so we can do something with it. I'm sorry, do you want me to stop moving?
No, sorry.
Good, because I'm not going to be able to. Business goals, personal goals, priorities, things on your time, truth of time worksheet that you want to change. So if you wanted to increase or decrease the hours spent. Anything that's popped in your head in the last hour. Even actually, last hour and a half. Maybe something Doreen said about recycling. You thought, oh, yeah, that's something I want to look into. Or maybe something Patrice said about 10,000, I'm going to make it
Small
up.
business.
10,000 small business.
Yeah, the 10,000.
I did, see?
That's
I was going to
great.
call it 10,000 villages.
We'll take
Totally
that.
different program.
No, that's okay, we work in a peer
Are you
group.
familiar with 10,000 villages? Okay, so totally different program. Maybe something that you heard there. Maybe something on the radio as you were driving here. Get all that stuff out of your head and get it down on this piece of paper. 10,000 villages. Raise your hand, please, if more time will be helpful. I should start to put things down on the sheet. All right, and you can continue to add to this as we go. I told you, I knew that you'd be getting overwhelmed about now. I was just one slide too slow. Now, I only want you to look over at the left side of your sheet. See? Arrow. Yes, my PowerPoint skills are exceptional. So over on the arrow, I want you to, next to your topic, I want you to think about, are you confident, okay, or not confident when it comes to that topic? So that could mean, are you confident in your skills to implement the topic? It could mean, are you confident in your knowledge about the topic? It could mean, are you confident knowing where you can find a resource? So let's say you want to start recycling. Are you confident about getting that program up and going off the ground in your business? Or are you pretty much okay about it? Or are you not confident at all? And mark that down for each one of your topics.
That's just an ability, not whether or not you're confident whether you're gonna follow through with it.
Oh, no follow through yet.
Okay.
Thank
Just
you.
on those-
Very
okay.
good. Thank you for saying thank you. Any other clarifying questions like that I can help with? We're going to talk about follow through later. This is just confident in like your skill set, I guess probably would be the best way. Or knowing your resources or what you need. Now, moving to, sorry, I went to some of you are not ready to move, I will wait for you. Everybody good? Moving to the next one. Some of those ideas that popped out of your head, you're looking at them now and you're thinking, you know what? I don't think I want to implement that anymore. It was in my head, I had to get it out on paper, but I don't know that it's something I really want to implement. Into our already filled schedule. So we spent the first part of today in our awareness phase. Remember, it was A.W.E, awareness, work, and evaluation. And we spent the first part in awareness. Now we're in work. How can we take that idea of this is where I am and this is where I want to be, And how do we bridge that gap? One of those ways is to use the next sheet in your packet. And if you've changed your mind, because I know before you went to break, none of you were right-brained, but if you changed your mind and you are now right-brained people, you've decided, you can do the same thing on, I gave you a blank sheet of paper if you want a mind map, or if writing in columns is not going to be the best thing for you, feel free to use the blank sheet that's also in your packet as a mind map. You identified and you prioritize that list, you've identified a number one priority. We are now going to figure out how to turn that into action. My goal for you today is when you walk out of here, you have action steps, and you have some strategies to start to implement. You have, it's not just another one of those workshops where you leave and have all these great ideas, and then a week later you forget that you even spent time with me. You're going to figure this out. So when we talked earlier about big projects, small projects, usually a project stalls because you haven't identified your next smallest step. So for example, if on my to-do list I have do Nawbo presentation, it will sit there like it did for what, 5 months probably? Well, I think I talked to Megan like 5 months ago, and it was on my to-do list, do Nawbo presentation for 5 months. I shared with you that I put all of it together and finalized every bit of it Wednesday and Thursday. Now, it doesn't mean that I didn't already have ideas and pieces of this presentation came from, I do a variety of presentations, so pieces came from different places. However, do Nawbo presentation sat there for 5 months, never turning into action. Because it wasn't the next smallest step. What does that even mean? Do Nawbo presentation, I don't even know what that means. Next smallest step would be create outline. Possibly even before that, decide what you want to talk about for 3 hours, just in general. There's probably, oh, I don't know, 7 days worth of stuff in my head if you were to sit here and just let me, and to put it into 3 hours. How do you balance, Megan and I talked about this last night, how do you balance giving you information so that you can walk away and implement stuff without the glazed looks across your faces to where you felt like this was worth your time to be here with me for half a day? It's half a work day for you all. And how do you strike that balance? How do you make sure that you put enough information in a 3-hour presentation, but not too much? Because remember, I have like 7 weeks worth of stuff in my head. So when it comes down to next smallest step, it's for this presentation, it was decide what are the big topics I want to hit. Then let's start to lay it out in an outline, how much time. Then let's pull the handouts together, because I knew I had to have the handouts run with my husband to do those at work. And so that had to happen before, and then let's put the PowerPoint together, and then let's go from there. And figure out timing and make sure I remember to let you all leave and get something to eat and go to the bathroom. So what you're doing now is you're taking that one priority that you chose, and you're either using this sheet, or if you want a mind map, use a blank sheet, and you are going to start to write down action steps. Next smallest step. Do not worry about if they are in order. Just get the steps down. So I walked you through the steps for creating this presentation. Decide on topics, get an outline down, handouts, make sure I kept you busy so that you didn't sit here staring at me for 3 hours, like all of that.
So you would use a separate worksheet for each one?
You can. Now, this is an exercise in theory. You may put it into implementation differently. This is a way to get a lot of information and funnel it down to one project. I do not use this sheet. I just put it all down, number it, like it never looks this pretty when I'm working. But by all means, feel free to use the sheet. It's on Dropbox. I'm happy to give you a link. You can use the sheet forever if you want. So don't worry about not writing on this one because you want to keep it pretty. Feel free to use it. I can get you more. So all I want you to do first is every smallest action step. So if your project is get more healthy, or get healthier, maybe your action steps are exercise 15 minutes, plan a week's worth of meals, research recipes, smallest, tiniest action. Raise your hand if more times would be helpful as you break it down to action steps. Okay.
I can see where this would really be helpful, because a lot of times when a project is so big, I just think, oh, I'll think about that later. And I've had stuff on my to-do list for like 3-4 years. And
See, and I thought I was somewhat, I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm gonna share with them, it's been online for 5 months. Yeah.
And finally, this last holiday, I just have been trying to get more focus, and I would do things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why has that been on my list for 4 years? It just took me a half an hour.
I know. Right? See, good, so we're figuring this,
Too big to think about.
you can't
I
grasp
just-
what it all
And I
entails.
thought, you know what, that just seems so hard, I'll think about,
Anything else?
yeah,
What that?
I'll just, write this
Yes.
check. I'll write a check so I feel like I'm doing something.
Something, right? Will you do me a favor, please, Pam, and park that whole idea so I feel like I'm doing something so that I can come back to that later? Because I want to tell you about that. Next column over is estimated time. So as Pam was saying, sometimes we look at this great big project and it really probably will only take us a half hour. Figure out how long each of these steps that you estimate they'll take. How long will each step take you? And you can go ahead and write in on the top estimated time. I just didn't want any of you working ahead, and so I left it blank. The next column is going to be is called adjusted time. Go ahead and write that down, adjusted time. Then I want you to put down 1.5 or 3. So it probably won't all fit in that box, so feel free to write it above if you need to. Adjusted time, 1.5 or 3, it's all going in that same column. When we estimate how long something will take, we usually underestimate. And if we overestimate, yippee, that means we have extra time. So usually we underestimate. If the task on your list is something that you have done before, you're going to multiply that by 1.5, or just add half to it. So if you think it's going to take you an hour, go ahead and give yourself an hour and a half. If you think it's going to take you 20 minutes, go ahead and give yourself 30 minutes. If it's a task you've never done before, multiply by 3, because you don't know what you don't know. You've never done it, you have no idea what it is that you don't know at this point. Like they say Murphy's Law, that is happening right now, you're multiplying by 3 to account for Murphy's Law. So when you go in to fix a light bulb and you end up having to rewire the house, that's Murphy's Law. Ish. So you have action step, estimated time, adjusted time. So you're either multiplying by 1.3, or you're multiplying, or 1.5, or you're multiplying by 3. Anybody need that explained? Next column over is supplies. Do you need any supplies to go with those action steps? So if you do, write down the supply that you need. And then you probably want to create another action step of going to get that supply if you don't already have it. Because there's nothing like getting started on a project and realizing you don't have the stuff you need. So add that to your list. The next one, the next column is person responsible. And it does not have to be you on every single line. And we are going to talk about delegating. But now's a great time to start that thought process. Do you have to do every single task that's on that project? Or can it go to someone else? I know no one can do it as good as you, Angela, but me, just continue. Now, earlier Patrice asked, it was about, is it our confidence in getting it done? Right, was that your question earlier?
Or follow.
Or follow through, like a column is going to help a little bit with the follow through. Label this column reward. What's the reward that you're going to get once you complete the step? It could be an internal reward. Yay, I'm so awesome. So it's self-satisfaction that finally doing that project that's been on my list for 5 years. Or it could be an external reward. Yay, I'm so awesome. I did that. I now get a new pair of shoes. You choose your reward. I'm a big believer in the size of the task equals the size of the reward. So I don't know that we want a 2-month cruise because we exercised 1 day for 15 minutes. So let's try to make that balance out. Not every step needs a reward, but if you don't put any rewards down, this paper will probably get hidden by the time you get home. Now, if you notice, there's a tiny column all the way over to the left. That's your that numbers your steps. So go ahead, and possibly you thought of them all in order, but you may have thought of something later. So go ahead and number your steps. And the tiny column all the way over on the left.
Would you repeat that, please?
Go ahead and number these steps. So maybe these are already in order, and you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But maybe like this one needs to go first. So just go ahead and number those in the order that which you need to, that they need to accomplish. So if getting supplies has to happen before you do a step, make sure that you number it ahead of that. And the last column, now we're going to start putting into action. What are your dates? What's an estimated date to complete action step 1? What's an estimated date to complete action step 2? Some of you may have run out of columns based on how clearly I explained this exercise. If that's the case, go ahead and draw yourself another column on the end. I want to see the word you messed up so that I wasn't clear here. Okay.
That is so funny, so I just kept going down.
This is the first time I've used it without the titles on the top, and I can see now why that may not have been my best plan. Did anyone else run out of columns just so I can see what you do so I can fix this for the future? Sorry, you're all in my incubator right now. I'm learning from how you filled out my form. So now let's look down. Sorry, anyone need more time? Or I'm sorry, will more time be helpful for anyone who's working still? Just join yourself in the just so that you know, I'm glad that you did, because now I know I have to be more specific when I speak.
But it was just me. So it wasn't you.
Well, there is that.
I said you put it that way.
let's look at the questions on the bottom. What resources do you have available for you right now that'll help you complete this project? Maybe there's someone sitting in this room who you're thinking, man, I'll bet they have all the knowledge I need if I could just suck that out of their brain. Or maybe there's someone in this room that you think, I'll bet they have a referral for me. As Tracy and I were just talking about her website, which I said I wasn't going to bring up anymore, and I am once again. She's like, you know what? And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I know a person for you, maybe. And you guys all know a ton of people. So maybe it's just that you need to be connected with the right person. So what resources do you have available right now? Bonnie just gave me a resource. I didn't write it down. See, remember I told you all I'm a tactile learner, so whenever you tell me something, what was it called again?
What, Stitcher?
Yes, thank you.
That's podcasting though.
Yes, so for those of you who are looking for professional development, Stitcher is to blah, 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 Pandora, blah, blah, blah. 80%
Yeah,
got it.
Stitcher is to podcast, what Pandora is to music. So I keep the application on my phone, it's a free thing, and I've got a lot of NPRs, but you can look up what you want. I've listened to one that's called Things You Didn't Learn in History, or, I mean, it's across the board. It's like favorite shows and things I've discovered, but it will also do, if you like things, it will give you suggestions on others. And it refreshes itself, when the shows are on.
Yeah.
So I get new ones every week in my favorites.
So if you're looking for for professional development resources, that may be a great one.
Might have some.
Yeah, it may have some. The next question is my favorite question. What does success look like? And in relation to this one project, we're not going to go into a lengthy discussion on this. But for this project, what does success look like? What does it look like when you're done? How do you know you're done? To pick on Tracy yet again. How do we know when her website's done? I had mine redesigned 7 months ago now. I change stuff on it once a week probably still. How will I know when it's done? Websites? Probably never. I'll just know it's time for a whole new, whatever people do. I just called and got a new one. But how that works. So what does success look like? How do you know when you're done? Because if you don't know that, how are you ever going to get there? It's that whole idea about if you don't, have a goal, how do you know when you're there? Or will you ever get there? And then lastly, how do you know when you need help? How do you, what would it look like in relationship exactly to this one project? How do you know that all of a sudden you're in over your head? Or you're out of ideas, or it's time to get professional help? I did my first website on my own. I knew I needed help when I couldn't make all the stuff line up the way I wanted it to. That's when I knew I needed to bring someone in. So how do you know when you need help? Maybe it's that you haven't moved forward on the project in a month. You know how you get all excited, you'll be here, you conquer the world. You're gonna go out there and you're gonna do everything on this list. And then all of a sudden you're gonna wake up and it's March and you haven't done a single thing on this. You're down to task 3. How do you know? How do you know when you need to bring in some sort of help? Good? Everyone write that down? Good. Biggest takeaway so far in education, think, pair, share. So what think, pair, share means is you will first think independently. So for those of you who are like, I am in need of process before they speak, do that. Then you're going to pair up with the person next to you and share. What's your biggest takeaway so far? Oh, you only will share with the people sitting next to you. So you don't want to share with her. Thank you, because I was making eye contact. Way to jump up first. Hang on one second, I'm sorry. Because what Lisa has to say is exceptionally exciting. And we all want to hear
Let's not put that expectation.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
Mine is just that I really need to break those bigger goals down, because if I don't, I get overwhelmed and I do nothing. I'll veg out in front of the TV and do nothing because I don't know where to start. So
How many of you have the same boat? That was one of your biggest takeaways?
That was
Good, we'll leave that in the next presentation I do, okay. Again, this is like all my incubator right now. What other takeaways do we have from today?
We were both sort of the opposite in that not only writing things down better, but we found writing down the smaller pieces. We already had the big stuff, but we weren't getting small enough on our list.
Right, so next smallest actual step.
Little ones.
Okay, yes, and there's a difference between a project list and a to-do list. The things on your to-do list should only be one-step actions. Project lists are what you just, the first brain dump that we did where you just kept writing all the things that were in your head, most of those would be projects. There might have been a couple, don't forget to pick up milk type things, but for the most part, those were bigger multi-step things. Your to-do list should only have one action items. That helps you not get stalled. Any other takeaways so far?
When I do this dial down, it helps me see what to delegate better.
Okay, good.
I see that part of the project, it's not all my project, it could be somebody else is doing part of it.
Good. What else?
On the delegation part, it gives me a goal to work toward to have somebody that I can eventually hire to delegate.
And knowing what task that person may be responsible for, you're starting to create that picture. So when that person comes into your space, you'll recognize them. Because they won't be wearing a sign that says delegate to me. Maybe they will.
Or hire me.
What other takeaways do we have right now? Patrice?
Is that there's a process for organizing yourself. I mean, I was like, oh, wow, these are a lot of pieces of paper just to get to this. Well, where is it? Whichever one, to get to this, so.
Right, and again, you may not need all those pieces of paper to get to that. You may need more. But the idea is, a lot of stuff in our heads, we can only do one thing at a time. Let's figure out what that one thing is and figure out the way that works best for you. Any other big takeaways?
That it's okay to schedule personal time.
Yes, so you took it off that choose a time part. Any other takeaways? All right, so we're going to talk about delegating now. Because if we think back, we knew that we had a lot of stuff on our plate. Then after spending a half hour with me, you got more stuff on your plate. It's always ignorance. In this case, ignorance was may have been bliss, but we're now back in reality, and there's all these other ideas that you want to try to implement. We need to create time to implement those. I don't remember that anyone had less than 168 hours accounted for in general on their things, or more over than under. So one of those ways is to delegate. Let's get some things off your plate if possible. The other way is to delete. I have 3 questions that I ask that I go through when I'm looking at my task list. And when we're talking about how do we implement in general, for me, I look at my task list on Fridays for the following 2 weeks. So that's where I start to identify my priorities. That's where I identify what do I have coming up in my calendar, what do I have to work on. I have that list of projects, which ones do I want to start pulling out and start working on actual tasks. That's also when I look at the things from the parking lot that maybe I wasn't as diligent as soon as the parking lot was over, maybe I didn't go through and fine tune and decide what goes on. That's where I start deleting things off my list. You created the very first paper that we worked on. You created if you could do anything, what would it be? What are your priorities? You started to look at how do you want your life to look? So I asked myself, Abby's asked, is this in line with my goals? And Friday, if I'm really tired, I actually will say, so, is this in line with my goals? And so you look at them. And if the answer is no, why is it on your list? So when you look at that task and you say, is this in line with my goals, with where I want to be, with what I want to do? If that answer is no, why is it there? An example, a recent client of mine, we were going through her calendar and it was full, go figure, and she was trying to figure out a way to, and I said, well, let's start looking at some things in your calendar. And she had book club. I love to read. And I said to her, oh, you have book club. Talk to me about book club. Well, what do you mean we go and we read a book? I'm like, I know, but give me some motivation. I belonged to this book club for 10 years. Great. Why did you start going to book club? I needed to get out of the house, my kids were little. Well, how old do you think her kids are now, 10 years later? Not still the same thing. And I said, oh, well, so why do you go now? And she goes, well, because it's it's the first Monday of the month. But why are you going? Well, because I always have for 10 years. I was like, oh my God. Why are you going? And she's like, oh, you're right. I was like, I know. But why? Those reasons no longer held true. She's like, as a matter of fact, she goes, all the people are mostly different, and I don't particularly like any of them. I was like, then why are you going? But that point being is, it was no longer in line with her goals. It was, and having doing it for 10 years, she felt like it still was. A lot of times, you'll be the president of the PTA for your oldest child. And by the time it comes to your youngest, you feel like you still need to be the president of the PTA. Well, maybe not. Maybe yes, maybe no. Fair does not always mean same. So everyone does, if you treat everyone fairly, doesn't mean you all have to treat them the same, it just has to be the same for them. Anyway, ask yourself, is this in line with my goals? If it's not, let's get it off your list. Second thing is, ask yourself the next 2 questions about delegating. Am I the best person to be doing this job? And is my time best spent doing this job? For many of you, or probably most of you in this room, you are the face of your business. So your time is probably best spent on person-to-person contacts. Your time may not be best spent on billing. Where is your time best spent? Liz, you talked about how you moved some things to someone else so that you could look at big picture planning and big picture implementation. For some of you, you are the rainmakers for your business, and that may be where your time is best spent. For others of you, you may say, am I the best person for this job? Goodness no, I have a marketer, or I have an outside salesperson. That's the best, that's their best. So you have to decide, is your time best spent here, and are you the best person to do that? Where I make the line is people and paper. I try to delegate as much of the paper part that I can, and try to keep the people part more to myself. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So those are your questions to ask. What can be delegated? Routine tasks, things like social media, possibly. So for example, for those of you who follow me on Facebook, you'll see that, well, those of you who follow on Facebook, you used to see that I posted a lot, but now that Facebook's changed stuff, you'll see that it looks like I never post. But I have a VA who I give her what I want her to actually put up, and then she schedules my posts for me. And then we use a system that I have a queue with 200 posts, and it will just recycle, and they'll come back out again. Now you can tell when I post, because it'll be like a comment, like, I just spent the day with Tracy and it was awesome. Like that'll go out, that came from me. But in general, those updates that you see, all my social media, LinkedIn, the general updates, those are all coming through my virtual assistant. So those are kind of routine tasks. Necessary tasks. Sometimes you can delegate necessary tasks. And your definition of necessary may or may not be the same. But meal prep. So when we said, can I delegate eating right and exercising? Well, in a former career, I was an athletic director, which is how I know Dana, and I actually delegated someone to cook my meals and freeze them in one-person things, because I would go into school at 7 in the morning, I would come home about 10 at night, and I would do that. Hard to believe I didn't stay in that job forever, for a lifetime. How the people made it 3 years there, I don't know. I made it 6. And even then it was a struggle. But he wanted to possibly go into culinary arts. He was a high school kid. And so he shopped, cooked, put it in the single serving with the instructions on how I was to heat it up. So I did everything I could to delegate eating right, because he did all that for me. It was very low cost for me. He was trying to figure out whether or not he wanted to be a chef. All he charged me for was materials. I know. So you don't always have to pay for good help, because he was great. He ended up going into I think he's a pharmacist now. I know. So I wonder too, yes, what was he cooking? I go ahead, I get that. So it could be something as outside the box as a high school kid who thinks they may want to go to culinary school. Other routine tasks, housework, a 2-year-old probably can make their bed. I inherited my kids when they were in middle school, so I'm not real sure under 10 what they can do. But there are kids who can do tasks. And then also specialty projects, website development, maybe a big, huge marketing campaign. So specialty projects. So what I would like for you to do is start to generate a list right now of possible tasks. I'm not saying you have to right now delegate anything. Possible tasks you could delegate. Either things that you currently have on your plate or things that you could see happening in the future. So start creating that list. I think you have a page that says possible tasks. So we're putting this into implementation. It's easy for me to say delegate. It's hard to do. I'd like to share some of the ideas they came up with of things that they can delegate. Oh, please not all of you at once.
I'm a social media consultant, but I always do for others. I don't do my own content for myself because I don't have time to promote myself because I'm always doing for others. So having someone to do the stuff for mine, promote me. Because that never gets on the list. As much as I put on the list, it never happens.
Because you have to do for them.
I have to do for them because they're thinking.
Who else has something? I know she set the bar really high. Who else had something? Oh, now if you start moving, I'm just going, there's stuff on your list, what's going on?
Mine was on a personal level, just to help free up time, but delegate my yard work. We hired somebody this summer, and it was the best choice in my life so far.
Yes. Yard work. What else? Personal business doesn't matter.
I also hired a cleaning lady this year. That was. I love it. My children love it. Like it's.
Who else has something? Yes.
I hired a marketing manager.
Who else has something that they've delegated out? Who has things that they are thinking that could possibly someday be delegated? Yes.
New leader training, chapter development, and marketing and advertising.
New leader training. And then some other ideas.
Yes.
All right. Who else has something that they think could be delegated sometime?
Bookkeeping.
Bookkeeping. Who else?
I just found a gal who's going to take care of my newsletter.
Where did you find that gal?
What?
And I will make a point that so far, everything on that list, there's a member in Nawbo who does it.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then one had the laundry.
Well, maybe not cleaning, I don't know, maybe there is, I don't know. I would like to find them, but, let's look within Nawbo for these things.
Thank you for that. Look at the connections already. One more, one more.
I don't see it up there, but I thought we talked about it, website development.
All right, so now that we have an idea of some things, and we know that there's possibly a member in Nawbo who does all of that, let's start looking at the next part. Who? So we know, for one, we possibly have members that we can delegate to. We also have family. Right now I've delegated my, or not, but my mom's doing my books right now. She did that before we were born, and so she's, well, I go to the accountant next month. We'll see how she's doing, but I think she's doing good. But, so possibly family members, friends, high school kids. I told you my high school kid story. Feel free to see if you can top that, because I think that's a really good one. Interns. office support, already possibly existing office support that you could utilize more efficiently. Virtual assistants, colleagues, college kids, retirees, and then specialists, website design, a specialist, marketing person, a specialist. There's also a little more outside the box ideas. Here are some websites. Time Saver is actually a website where they will do tasks that take you 15 minutes or less. And so when you delegate 4 of those 15-minute tasks out, you have now, quote unquote, saved an hour.
What type of stuff,
All Time Saver, anything that's under 15 minutes. So like if you are, if you travel, you could say, I need you to book my flight, give them parameters, book my flight, book my hotel, like those things that take a little bit of time.
Okay.
They also would do like maybe something in, say, the social media realm where you could say, you know, here's a presentation, I need you to, here's 10 updates, get them on my social media. Go on their, if interested, go on their website, they list. And I mean, pretty much the only qualification is 15 minutes. Or it was the last time I did this part of this presentation. 99 Designs, does anyone use 99 Designs? 99 Designs is like a contest for design work. So you provide the prize, and then all these other people do, like, create book cover jackets or whatever you're looking for design work in. Fiverr, does anyone use Fiverr? What have you used Fiverr for?
Voiceovers.
Okay. Yeah. Any job you want for $5. Now, I will tell you that the $5 will buy you that minimum level job. So for example, if you wanted to transcribe this videotape, $5 will buy you like 10 minutes of transcription. My first Facebook banner, I did not make the picture go long, $5, and the person designed my banner on Facebook. They also do like goofy stuff, like you could have someone twirling a sign singing happy birthday for your grandmother. It's a great, when we talk about distractions, this is one set a timer before you go on that site and decide how long you want to look around, because you could spend all saying, really, for $5? It's a great site. So what I want you to do on that sheet where it says possible resources, let's start thinking of what are the people that you can use to delegate to. It does not have to match up evenly with the task you have on the top, but part of effective delegation is having the awareness of, oh, wait a minute, that's the person I'm looking for. Like Angela's starting to design who she'd like, what that person, the quality of that person would look like to delegate to. Or maybe you know right away, oh, my mom could do my books too.
I have you beat on the high school thing.
Do you?
I have a 10-year-old niece, lives next door. After I take a bunch of pictures of different outfits I've styled, she comes over on my iPad and she creates them in like 3 or 5, puts my logo on them, puts my website on them so that I can post them to Facebook. So, and she could sit there and do that without a thought.
Yes.
How. And the only thing is I have to check her spelling. But other than that, she loves to do it. I pay her $4 an hour.
And they're cute, I see them.
I know,
Okay, yeah,
great.
I've been posting more and more.
Yes, I was wondering how that was.
$4 an hour, and she can really do anything at all. It has to do with the iPad, pictures. She knows how to do it.
That
I couldn't figure it out.
beat.
It would have taken me hours to try to figure it out. I mean, I could learn it, but I didn't want to.
You see, and there's the key. Just because you can learn it,
Right.
doesn't mean you have to learn it.
Exactly.
Is my time best spent?
And she loves it. And she had me write down, when we first started doing this, she goes, write down that you hired me. And you're gonna pay me because I have to show my parents, because he's just not gonna believe I got a job. Like, okay.
Oh, awesome. So anyone, raise your hand if something new was sparked during this beginning part of our delegation discussion. Either a task or a person. I have one person with an idea, that 2, thank you, 2. That's it? Okay, 3. All right, yeah, I guess, okay, so my bar is low now. Here's where delegation, here's your big awareness, tasks and people, starting to get an idea of what are some things I could delegate out, what are some people possibly that I could be looking for to delegate to, using your membership, even more than what you may already be doing on some of these ideas, and maybe the idea will spark when you get in your car for the other 21 of you or whoever else is in here. Also, let's talk about levels of delegation. That's on the bottom of your sheet, and I'm not saying you have to be like this specific, but let me tell you a story from my life. I am on a board of an organization, and back in the spring, we had this discussion at our board about how we hadn't surveyed our membership in a really long time, like years, 10 years. And wouldn't it be nice if we were to survey our membership? I said, sure, it would. And everyone just kind of looked at each other, and I said, I'll do that. And so, in Lisa's head, it had just been delegated, and I was then free to proceed. Created the questions, put them on a survey, sent it out to the membership, survey came back, compiled the results, and made recommendations off the results for our strategic planning meeting. And remember, the strategic planning meeting, though I didn't share this with you, was 2 weeks following this board discussion. We said, wouldn't it be great if we were to survey our members? Okay, got it out, sent it out, came back, done. Thought I was good. Well, you could just do this. And I was like, really? Oh, who'd have thought? There must be a class for that I can go to.
You know, part of this whole delegation thing, there was probably a period of 2 to 3 years when I struggled that I wanted to bring someone in because I was tired of being up till 3 in the morning working. And I couldn't find the time to set aside to bring that person in and show them what to do. I just couldn't find that time, and finally I was just done and I had to do it. But be prepared that you're gonna have to set aside chunks of time that are really gonna be stressful for you, because you know you've got all this, but you've gotta spend the time going through the training and the mundane tasks of explaining maybe over and over. And it was frustrating for a while, but you know, once you get past that period, it's heavenly.
And so I think sometimes what helps with that is if you can look at it not as a week, but as a month. Like, I'm gonna spend 30 hours on this task in a month. Well, 28 of them are going to occur in the first week when I teach someone else how to do them, and 2 are gonna occur later on. So like, if we can expand our view, because usually we're looking at how much can we get done in a day, possibly how much can we get done in a week. But when you can expand that figure out, that then helps alleviate some of that stress of, oh, I have to, you know, I've spent all day teaching him how to do one thing or her. The other thing that's helpful when you delegate is to have some sort of a list. In the next page in your packet, I think, is a delegation list. Just to keep track of what you have out there. And I will, again, it is not meant necessarily that this is the list that you will use. It's just the idea again of a process. What's the task, who have you delegated it to, and what's your next steps? And let's put what's your due date. Let's get that into your calendar. Early on as an athletic director, a lot of papers came in and out of my office. And so as I would send it out, in my head it was out of sight, out of mind. Because I've done what I needed to do, and I'm just assuming the person on the other end is going to do what they need to do, and it would come back to me. It took about, I don't know, a week on the job to realize that that does not happen. And so I started to keep track of, check with Joe if not heard about this. And then when I would see that reminder, I would be like, oh, Joe did give me that back, I'm good. Or it's like, oh no, I need to follow up on this. So sometimes when you delegate, what happens is those things start to fall through the cracks because you are out of sight, out of mind. So sometimes, depending on the project, you can just set a meeting in the calendar, both of you right then, so the meeting says we're gonna come back and talk about this. It can also be a recurring meeting. Maybe you have someone that you are in contact with a lot, and so you just meet with them by phone or whatever, 10 o'clock on Fridays. Let's cover what's going on the week, and then let's figure out where to go from there. Make sense? Okay, so do we have anyone who's still feeling like, yeah, this delegating is a great idea, however, I don't know that I can do it?
Where would you recommend drawing the line, like with delegation? Like I've heard that, you don't wanna delegate marketing, developing your own content because that's you. I mean, it's so much of you, it's your brand, and you don't wanna make, run the risk that somebody is masquerading it.
Right.
And even things like little tasks, like, sending out thank you notes or something. When you delegate that, like where do you draw the line?
And I think a lot, and I'm not copying out on your question, I promise. I think some of that's gonna be a personal standard that you have. I mean, I know that your etiquette meeting, her answer may be different than mine, depending on what that is. So for example, when we talk about content, I develop my own content, but after a while, my VA knows my voice. And so sometimes I'll say to her, can you throw up 5 posts that sound like me on X? But then she puts it up on Google Drive and I check it.
Okay.
And I make sure it still sounds like me. The same with my newsletter. I give her the content, she lays out my newsletter for me. But sometimes I'll be like, can you throw something in there about, I've got Nawbo. And so she'll do it, but I check it. But that's me.
Okay.
Some people will say nothing.
I do content for other people, but the problem is lots of clients want to pay you the money and then think that they have to do nothing, and it can't work that way.
But
You can't-
that's
you can't-
different for a bigger business. You work with bigger businesses,
I work with all,
Right.
and I even get little people that they don't have the time, they want to think about it, just want to write a check and then go home. They can't do that.
Yeah, I guess that's what
You can't just write a check and go.
You're saying, are you sure? Are you sure?
It's coming back to, can I delegate eating right and exercising?
Sweet, so you still need to have some involvement, but the bulk of it, and right, the clients I've had over and over, after some time, I need very little.
Right. So it depends
Because then you can know.
Right, because at some point, I would love to start delegating some of my blog posts out. My brain's tired. So,
You always need
but,
some back and
yeah,
forth.
there's always, it just, I think, the line on how much, but great question. And then you had another one that I already forgot it. Oh, thank you notes.
I don't know.
I'm a big believer in thank you notes are handwritten and, so, but I'm sure other people have other ideas. I'm sorry, if you were trying to get someone to say it's okay. That's me. Anyone else have questions? These are great questions.
Actually, just a comment on Liz. I've had a client send me all his holiday cards. He doesn't celebrate Christmas, but New Year's. So he gave me a list of like 80 people to handwrite cards to. So there's ways to work stuff. I'm a VA, so there's ways to work stuff.
I would say if the person doesn't know your handwriting, they won't know, and if you give a direction. Yeah, I mean, if you give a direction on what you wanna say, and oh gee, I wanna say this to this person, they're not gonna know. If it frees up a half hour of your time, do it, if, I don't know what your handwriting really looks like, so I wouldn't know.
I just don't, yeah.
But if if it's to someone who knows, that would be different.
My philosophy is the recipient is probably just so happy to be getting a thank you
Right.
card, they're not gonna do a handwriting analysis.
Thank you for that levity. There is
As long as you're in the card doesn't have a printed label, it's hand.
Yeah, no printed label.
No printed label on the envelope.
Handwritten.
There we go. All right, so good. We've worked through some questions. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're rolling into our last. I can't believe we're almost done. Are you sure that's clock's right? I have so much more to go through. I feel like I wasn't already. I know you're all in trouble now. We're going to play another. We're going to do a quick game. I want you to take the stack of money in front of you and spread it out on the table. And spread it out. I want them overlapping. They're going to be mixed up, so let me micromanage and spread it out. Yeah.
I sent one.
There we go. So your final product is going to look something like that. Make it happen however you want. But I want it looking like that.
Yeah. I told them the issue remained, and they said
Just
the one
all
that I sent at
smushed
least
all
has the
over.
same static.
All right, so here's the challenge. one person who's sitting close to that, you are going to pick up one bill with one hand, put it into the other hand, and then pick up one bill at a time. Pick it up. So, and then put it into the other hand. So if you can slide it off and put it into your other hand, that's fine. Or you can pick it up and put it into your other hand, that's fine. The goal is to get the most amount of money in the time allotted.
Value?
Value. Sorry, thank you. Because last time I did this, I thank you for clarifying. The highest value of money, not the most number of bills. Thank you. I know I screwed that up last time.
Not allowed to touch other bills?
No, one bill at a time from, so if you're right-handed, into your right hand and stick it into your left hand. One bill at a time. Ready? And go. And stop. Count up your money. And someone put it all back in, smush it around. Someone else sitting near the pile, do it again. Ready and go. Stop. All right. And now go ahead and smush the pile back together. How much money did we collect? Highest amount of money?
40.
40? All right, 35. 35? What did you all do when you went looking for the money? You went for the tens first, right?
Yeah.
And this is the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. 80% of your energy is going to be 20% of your outcome. 20% of your energy is going to give you 80% of the outcome. You all went for the big bills first. The reason that we bring up the Pareto principle is that works on a lot of things. Delegating, your calendar, prospecting for clients. But when we're looking at how do we save time, let's think of the 80-20 rule. So what that means is that 80% of my time was spent creating, or 20% of my time was spent creating this presentation. To move that to the next level would have taken 80% of my time to get it 20% up. Meaning, have any of you ever used Prezi, P-R-E-Z-I? Okay, so it's a PowerPoint on steroids, as my 4th grade nephew told me, who by the way can do one. I started trying to figure that out a while ago and said, okay, guess what? That's 80% of my time. You're not getting a PowerPoint on steroids, you're getting this one. Another example would be, in anticipation that some of you would be digital and want that stuff on Dropbox, would have been creating these forms as fillable forms. So that when you typed in, you wouldn't be messing up the margins. Again, forms are fine. None of you wanted to grab them off the Dropbox, so it didn't matter. But it would have taken me 80% of my time to bring that up 20%. What does that mean? It means that I could have delegated out that last part.
4th grader.
I know. And had I realized that we were going to have your face will fall off weather, I could have had him up at my house for a day, and he could have done that because he was not in school. What does success look like? Define that so that you're not spending 80% of your time getting that last 20% that maybe wasn't in your success vision. Now, am I saying lower the bar on your standards? No. I'm saying if 80% is good enough, stop at 80. If it's a place where 100% needs to happen, like if this were at a tech place, I probably needed that extra 20 in the Prezi with the fillable forms online and all that kind of stuff. Then maybe it's worth delegating out or spending your time on. But be aware of where that bar is. Okay, what are you learning right now? 3 people, quick. What do you know now that you didn't know before you came in?
It's okay to delegate.
Yay! What? 2 more people. What else? What do we know that we didn't know before we came in?
There's a lot more things I can delegate than I do.
Good. Good. What else?
That I already delegate very well.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk about calendar, and we're going to talk really fast about calendar. Because I've been throwing in a lot of calendar stuff as we've been talking, but here are some important things with your calendar. Plan to plan. I told you I do my planning on Fridays. I do it for 2 weeks. That's also when I know that I've relaxed my boundaries and I need to fix it. So for example, Tracy and I were laughing earlier, holy cow, 7:30 in the morning, you must be joking me. I work from my office and I pick the times that I start, and my first client in my office is at 9. So I know then that the rest of today, I'm off. My body is not used to that whole getting in the car, moving around that early. It's crazy, those of you who do that all the time. So that was my boundary. I also know that when I have a presentation at night, that next morning, I take some time off because it's hard work doing this. And I'm tired when I get home, and my feet hurt, because I do not wear heels when I'm working in my office. And so I know that I need some time to kind of just recover and all those. But what'll happen is someone will call and say, can you do a presentation? I'll say yes. Someone else will call and I'll say yes. And I'll keep saying yes, and then Friday I'll look at my calendar and say, holy cow, what were you thinking? Who keeps your schedule? You need to fire them. Then I realize that'd be great. And then I start bumping things around. What can I move? It's a process. Someday I'll tell this story and it'll be like in my former life, I used to always say yes. I'm still working on saying no, getting better, but I have my boundaries set. One calendar. If you have multiple calendars, please only make decisions based on the one that they all feed into. Do not make decisions off of a calendar that only shows your work obligations when you have a family. Transition time. Let's use the rule of 1.5 when we're talking about transition time. If you think it's going to take you 20 minutes to get somewhere, let's give yourself 30. Let's make sure in the transition time, if it's applicable, that you go ahead and give yourself debrief time. Meaning, like when I come home from here today, I'll think through, oh, this went well, this didn't, you're way off schedule on your PowerPoint, what could you fix? So that's set into the end of my day. Then I'm done. When you run meetings back to back to back to back to back, by the time you're done with your fourth, you can't remember what your action steps were from your first. So give yourself time to gather that information in so that you can put it where it needs to go on a task list, in a project list, in your calendar. Time-specific tasks. Love this. I write appointments with myself in my calendar. That helps me say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now, I have an appointment. No one needs to know it's with me. But that's how I make sure I plan, is there's an appointment in my calendar with myself. All those action steps we've been talking about into the calendar, they hold more weight when they have a day and time with them versus when they're just on your to-do list. Like when you can put that in and say, oh, I'm gonna work on the Nawbo presentation after 5 months, I'm gonna do that at noon on Wednesday. That's like noon on Wednesday, like holy cow, I gotta work on that presentation, it's in the calendar. So those tend to hold more weight. Gap. Has anyone noticed that when you leave your house until you're actually driving out of the driveway, there's like a 15-minute gap in time? Yeah. Right? Account for that gap. So for me this morning, the gap, I was like, I'm leaving my house at 6:30. And then I was like, oh, and then we'll put the dog downstairs. And oh, I need to make sure I grab some water. And oh, Luke just called and it's snowing, I have to change my shoes. And then it was 15 minutes from when I stood in the kitchen with my hand on the door to leave till I was actually driving out the driveway. So plan for the gap.
I always set, it doesn't always work, because inevitably I'm either late or right on time. But whatever the time is for the event, 1:15, I make it 1. I just keep it for, plan it ahead 15 minutes.
Right, and so you're building in that gap for yourself. Absolutely. So, and we all have, like, the clock in our bedroom is set 20 minutes fast. I don't know who that's fooling. I know it's set 20 minutes fast. I hit snooze twice. I mean, I totally negated that whole plan. However, that's our attempt at getting up. But the other idea is 50%. Try to only schedule 50% of your calendar in scheduled appointments. That gives you room when the day gets out of control. Anyone's day get out of control? Some of you who emailed me back said, how do I stay on track when I set my schedule for the day? One way to do that is give yourself some buffer time. So when emerging priorities come into play, you're actually able to adjust those in and still stay closer to schedule. Also, schedule, front load your calendar. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday should be heavier stuff than Thursday, Friday. Because when things invariably get bumped, we all like to finish it by Friday. I mean, not all. In general, most people like to finish their stuff by Friday. So if we can front load a little bit heavier, a lot of times we can get it done by Friday. If we have a lot of stuff on Friday, if it gets bumped, it's getting carried over, and sometimes then we're like, oh, I'll just do one thing on the weekend. And if one of your things was family time, pushing work into family time, kind of out of balance there. Stephen Cunningham in here at all? He talks about the rocks. Let's schedule our big rocks first, and then all the little rocks around them. Meaning your priorities. Get those into your calendar first. If we schedule a day to hold the birthdays, in our family, our birthdays tend to be bunched together. So if we have an October day for all the September and October birthdays, and we schedule that out end of August, early September, we have a chance of being able to do it. If we're scheduling that mid-October, people's schedules are never going to match up. So schedule your big important things first.
You're saying within a month? You're saying doing that by month? So the first 3 weeks of each month, you're saying?
No, I'm sorry. I'm saying in general, if you know something is important to you, get it into your calendar as soon as you can.
The weeks is throwing me off. Should I?
Sorry, that's deleted off my version.
So
I'm gonna say with you, like 1 to 3 weeks out, I tend to go much further than that.
Okay.
Like I can tell you right now when we're holding Christmas next year. We said it when we held Christmas this year. That's what it is, and if you can't make it, you have a whole year to plan around it. Get there. There's 80 of us coming to Christmas. You know, so we set it and that's it. Our reunion, my great aunt has set the reunion for the next 6 years. You want to plan your vacation? Okay, good luck not missing the reunion. You knew when it was. So get those big things in. Here are some additional ideas on calendars. Just in general and work, just time trade. For those of you who do scheduling with people, instead of those 15 emails back and forth, throw your open times up on time trade. They can then pick a time that works. So that's how I schedule all my new client discovery sessions. Here's the website, go there, pick a time that works for you, and then that eliminates a lot of that time. Doodle's a great way if you're trying to schedule with multiple people.
Meeting Wizard is another good
Oh,
one.
Meeting Wizard. Thank you. This is where I get all my resources. Meeting Wizard.
Oh, Wizard. I'm a lizard.
It's something completely different. Some creepy guy.
I was gonna say, I think I might have dated him.
Now, I want you to pull out that project worksheet that you were all working on. I want you to get your first and second task into your calendar right now. Don't think for 1 second you're walking away from here without action.
After 2:30.
Should have told you to save it. Yes, there it is. Can I borrow yours for 1 second? It's the one that looks like
The
this.
hard one or the?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, project worksheet across the top.
Okay, thank you.
Get it into your calendars. First and second action.
Which sheet are you worksheet?
It says project worksheet across the top. That one. So just figure out, you identify which ones were first. Possibly, or figure out which one you want is first. One of the January ones and get it in longer. Oh, no, I just made your personal
Which is
calendar.
coming when we go get it. Right.
Now I want you to tell someone sitting near you what it is that you just committed to do, because you have committed to do something just by coming here today. So tell someone near you what that first action is and when you're going to finish it by.
They usually last a half hour. You make it 3 to be safe, but it'll be
All right, thank you. Thank you for sharing. So we talked at the beginning. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Still sharing. Everybody.
Woo! I'm so excited you're still sharing. Now, earlier, we talked about two reasons why time management is so hard. It's hard to find time to clearly define what it is you want to do. We gave you the gift of time today. How do you get back on track? Because this is all great in theory, you have to be able to implement. You have to know how it applies to you. I will share really quick with you, Lynn just asked a really great question, how do I keep track of my mileage? I told you all I'm tactile. I have this little tiny notebook in my car, and then when I have downtime, I still, as part of my, I work with high school kids on time management, and so sometimes when we're meeting face to face, they'll be doing an activity, I'll pull my mileage thing out and I'll start calculating it, and then when they're done, we'll work. I have a hard time sitting still. I'm sure that shocks you all. So that's how I calculate my mileage. There are apps out there.
They sell books at Office Max, there's little.
Yeah, mine's just a little tiny notebook.
I just put mine on my Outlook calendar next to
See, there's lots of ways. I go back.
Lisa, I'll get it for you. If you're applying with mine, I have a safety valet that you plug into your car and it keeps track of your mileage by month. It tells you what your trips were and where you've been by month.
Well, look at that. See? Wow. Right here, talk about networking. Right here it is. So we want to talk about next steps. How's your life going to be different? Tomorrow. What are you going to implement? You need to know that walking out of here, because if you don't have a clear plan, it's like you're in the bubble right now. We're all in here together and it's awesome. We're all supportive and everything's great. As soon as you walk out of there, there's what? 20 emails, 15 voicemails, possibly snow. You know, there's stuff going on. So make your plan now, yay, there's no, for what you're going to do once you leave here and how you're going to continue to come back to that. Also, as we talked about at the beginning, I do not want to leave you hanging if you feel like additional support would be helpful. I have screwed this up because I am magical on all things time management. I have an all challenge, and Tracy was in it, Sam was in it. Was there anyone else in here that was in that? What it is a 30-day challenge that you can, at that website, it'll start again in February 1st, for those of you who are with me in November. And it's just 30 days that you get an email from me that says, yay, you can go work today. And here's a way that you can do that. It'll have a video on there also. The email and the video both say the same thing, but for those who are visual, feel free to watch me on the video. For those of you who would prefer to read, feel free to read what I've written, but they're both the same. There's also a support group for accountability. So when we talk about, like Patrice asked earlier, how do we make sure we get it done? And like I just had you share with someone next to you. Now, I'm not expecting the person next to you is going to actually call you and say, did you do what you told me you were going to do in the workshop? But I can guarantee that the next time you see them, you're going to be thinking, oh, I told them I was going to do this. I didn't. And so there is that little bit of accountability. Plus, once you say it and write it, it just has more of an opportunity to actually happen. So the All Challenge is designed that way, so feel free to sign up for that.